Hi everybody, welcome to Golden Rosa Tarot. Welcome if it's your first time, and welcome back if you've joined me here before. Today I wanted to come on and talk about the topic of darkness, which is a massive topic, and I know we're only going to be able to scratch the surface, obviously, but it's such a fascinating topic. If you're in the northern hemisphere, like I am, you're experiencing a very visceral sense of darkness, of it getting dark very early, of there being like these long nights. And darkness of course can also be more of a felt experience. It can be the experience of the fear and uncertainty we feel around what's unknown in our environment. If you walk through, say a park during the day, it's not scary at all, but maybe if you walked through that same park at night, suddenly it's a little more scary because you can't see what's around you. It's that uncertainty, that unknowing. There's going to be some something lurking in the bushes and stuff, and so that sort of element of darkness can be one of fear and uncertainty, and it all can also be a very beautiful and natural state. Like the darkness is often attributed to the divine feminine, where the divine masculine is the light that brings things forth. The darkness is also a really important aspect of our being because it's where we germinate, it's where we come from. So like when we're inside of our mothers, for example, it's dark in there, but it's not bad. It's not of course we're supposed to be in there. We can't always be in the light, just like we need the nighttime so we can sleep and rest and recharge our bodies. Seeds grow in the dark. There's so much magic that happens in the dark. And so I thought today we could explore the dark. Like I was saying, I know a lot of us are feeling a bit uncertain about the world in this time. There's a lot of things that can be, a little scary, things that go bump in the dark. So whatever your relationship to darkness is at this time, I just thought this would be a interesting topic to explore. As I've stated in my little bio, my readings are never predictive, and they do not give the full complete answer. It would be impossible to, in the course of an hour, talk about every aspect of darkness, but I'm asking Spirit to join us here today. Please, Spirit, please come through this reading, and please teach us some new and interesting things about darkness. Please give us some ways we can work with this element of darkness in our lives in magical, alchemical ways to make peace with it, because a part of me wants to say, how do we bring light to the darkness? And that's a powerful and profound thing to do as well, and that might come through as well. But there's also a great amount of power in accepting the darkness, in learning in the darkness, and leaning into the darkness and accepting the darkness. So anyway, we'll see where Spirit wants to take us today. I think it'll be an interesting topic, and I'm so grateful to have you here. If you are going through a time of darkness, I extend my compassion and solidarity with you. It's been a year. I get it. So hopefully we can come to some deeper understanding and peace around darkness today. All right. I'm going to start off with some tarot. Just going to give the deck a good shuffle because I haven't used it for a minute. If you're watching this for the first time, you're probably saying, that's not a good shuffle. And I know, I'm not very good at shuffling, so we're going to do this my slow way. Okay. Dear Spirit, we come before you today to ask you about this very vast topic of darkness, and asking you to come forth with some archetypes for us to start off this reading. I always like to start off with some tarot because it gives us some kind of really human connection to the thing we're talking about. What are some archetypes that we can think about when we are dealing with darkness in our life, either literally, figuratively, internally? And for those of you joining me for the first time, I do only read jumpers, so sometimes they take a minute to come out. Dear Spirit, which archetypes would you have us think about today on this topic of darkness? Perhaps someday I'll be like better at editing and stuff and I can fast forward through all my shuffling, but sometimes the cards come out right away and sometimes they think for a while. But I like to do it this way because it bypasses my mind. So for me, I like to do this. Dear Spirit, which archetypes would you like to show us today in order to learn more about the element of darkness? Dear Spirit, which elements would you like us to, sorry, which archetypes would you like us to focus on today in our study of the topic of darkness? I'm loving these so much already. All right. Dear Spirit, will you please give us one more archetype to work with today in our study of darkness? Okay, well, that one's interesting. All right. So right off the bat, we have the Ace of Pentacles. The Ace of Pentacles is a card of new beginnings and starting things in the physical realm. The Pentacles deal with sort of tangible material matters, and aces are beginnings. So I really like this card coming through today because it makes me think of like what I was saying, like, you know, when you're a child inside your mother, or if you're a seed inside the ground, that even if you're just a thought, you know, a lot of, well, not even a lot, pretty much, I would say everything. I'll go out on a ledge here and say everything that we see in our world, you know, like I'm in my kitchen right now, so I see a refrigerator, I see a lamp, I see an electric tea kettle, I see, you know, dishes, and, you know, I could go on and on. Point is, all of those things at one point were just an idea, you know? They were in that darkness, they were in that immaterial realm of pre-manifestation. And all things start there, you know? So one thing to consider when we think about the darkness is how everything has to start in that beginning, you know, that the depths, whether it's the depths of the physical body, the depths of the earth, the depths of the mind, and how, you know, if you're going through a dark time, to consider, you know, what seeds you might be planting in that darkness, because it's often, you know, the dark times that we go through that are the most transformative, right? Like, we don't transform a whole lot when everything's going great, or, you know, or just like coasting along, enjoying the ride. It's when things are dark and uncertain and scary that we have to really consciously think about what are we planting into our reality, what seeds are we planting, what ideas are we giving weight to. So I love that the Ace of Pentacles has come forward today. Next, we have the High Priestess, and the High Priestess is very much about the inner knowing. You know, it's the divine feminine, it's the inner knowing, it's the mystery, it's the it's sort of the trying to think of the right word for it. It is that inner work before you do something in the external world. You know, it's listening to your inner guidance, listening to your inner wisdom, going deep within, not really being concerned with what anyone else thinks about what you're doing. It's sort of a solitary, she's kind of a solitary figure. Um, but it's going into the depths of oneself, and that once again, when we're going through dark times, it's a time when we're really kind of forced to do that, right? Like sometimes it's by losing things or things not turning out the way we wanted them to, or things being scary and uncertain. It really illuminates what do we actually want. Things are just kind of okay, so manageable, bearable. We might not take that time to really go deep within, to really listen to what is our own inner voice telling us and guiding us. Now, this card element, we have the Four of Wands, and that can speak to happiness, gatherings, like marriages, graduations, times when everything's like happy, So I think it's very interesting that this card has come out, and I'll admit it's not instantly clicking, so there's a little bit of a mystery here for me, because with the Ace of Pentacles and the High Priestess, I was like, okay, yeah, I totally get how these cards connect to the darkness. I'm having a harder time making the connection to how the Four of Wands is such a happy card. Like, how does that connect to the darkness? It was interesting that came out. So let's do a clarifier. Dear Spirit, can you give us a little more information, please, about how this Four of Wands energy connects to the darkness? It's like, because it's just like one of the happiest cards in the whole deck. I mean, I could try to guess the correlation, but Spirit, do you have a little clue as to what you're telling us here? How does the Four of Wands energy connect to the energy of darkness? I'll try to shuffle a little faster. Oh, I need like a shuffling machine. Oh. Okay, this is very interesting. So we're getting the Five of Cups here. So I'm just going to push these aside, kind of focus in here. The Five of Cups is very much about heartbreak, dissatisfaction, disappointment, sadness. He looks very sad. It's very much a card that comes up when you feel a loss, when you see he's lost three of his cups are knocked over, and this, maybe it's wine, this red liquid is poured out. Maybe it's blood. Maybe he lost something dear to him. But he still has two cups. So not all is lost, but it's a big loss, and he's feeling it. So now with the Four of Wands, what I'm gathering is that Spirit is showing us that darkness is an element in getting to the happy ending, So with whatever our dream is, our goal is, whether it's to get a degree or get a new job or have a family or a partner, that there is darkness on that path. There'll be times when we lose things. There'll be times when he's just this dark cloak, right? He's just immersed in darkness, And so I think the message here is when we are going through darkness to not lose hope, but to see that this darkness is a part of the journey to getting to this happy place that we want to get to. Because the darkness is what gives us depth, is what gives us complexity. Like Don't know how well these are showing up, but I have this black tourmaline, which is in this beautiful like rose pink mica. I have this septarian crystal, which is the white and the dark. I have this shell, which is the light and the dark, and like this I think it might be obsidian, this ball, and selenite, and once again the light and the dark. It's like they really work together. Even with the high priestess, we're seeing this light and this dark, that the light and the dark are always working together. So we see it as being a sort of hindrance in our life. We think, oh, I lost this relationship, I lost this person I loved, I'll never be happy again. But the point of darkness is not that we have to stay in this dark state forever. It's like a seasoning, the poet Rumi has a poem about the chickpea, the garbanzo bean, and it's from the perspective of the garbanzo bean in the pan, and it's like, you're burning me, you're smashing me, why are you doing this to me? And then it finally understands that it's being made into this like amazing meal, this amazing dish with all these spices, and then it gets excited. It's like, yes, please smash me up some more so I can be food for the king, like. So our darkness and our happiness, our darkness and our potential, our darkness and our happy outcomes are really like this. It's not one or the other. It's not like you're either going to be happy or you're going to be sad in life. It's like we're given darkness, we're given difficulty, we're given situations that feel hopeless because they cause us to go inward, they cause us to germinate, they cause us to redirect ourselves towards the things that actually will bring us this ultimate happiness. And it sounds so wonderful and inspiring to just talk about it right now. But I, like everyone, deal with it in my life, of this just real grief sometimes, this real sense of like fear and grief and anxiety that things aren't going to turn out, So I think Spirit just wants us to know that the pain of darkness is an ingredient towards getting where we want to go. It's not the end of the road. All right. So let's go next and let's get a plant. Ask our dear planty friends, our dear plant teachers, dear plant spirits, please give us a plant to work with to help us learn about and embrace the element of darkness in our life. Now we're getting mimosa. Beautiful. Mimosa is an amazing plant ally for grief and depression. It's this beautiful pink blossoming tree. And yeah, I can totally see why it's coming out for this reading. So the card says, the polisher of radiance. Mimosa the glorious, effortlessly showing, radiating both buoyancy and care. Mimosa is the bright light and the twinkling confident that you have been waiting for. Mimosa's gifts are those of duality and nuance. For those who feel sunken low in their hearts, dark under their eyes, slow and struggling for that spark that drives them forward, Mimosa has the feathery swing of a mountain breeze. The fabulous firecracker of the mimosa flowers move upward, dancing in the wind, sparkling in your depths. Mimosa will twinkle in the caves of despair, acting as a guiding kite for your wallowing spirit as you follow their irresistible glow. Sometimes, however, when our energy trends towards restlessness or spiritual hunger, we search for something to lift and float us out of where we are. We reach upward and become untethered. Mimosa flowers enhance and clear the way for the intelligence of your heart, opening your chest and reaching your arms towards the sky, while their trunk and bark hold you steadily to the ground. This is the mountain you set your feet upon as you look out over the world. You can explore the ecstatic and you will not float away or lose sight of what you need. Mimosa creates the stability for your dreams to become realized without inhibiting the spontaneity and freedom of your imagination. Mimosa is a grounded and bright friend, the dependable, stalwart mountain and the breeze dancing on its edges. So wow, that is an incredible message from Mimosa. I have used Mimosa plant myself when I was feeling depressed, and it really helped me. But yeah, that's one thing about the darkness is it can feel sticky, right? You can get kind of like stuck there. And it's something we want to give its due. We have to feel our grief, we have to feel our pain, we have to go through the ups and downs. But it's not it's not the final destination. I think life is kind of always kind of going like this, right? It's like up and down, up and down. And so Mimosa is a great friend and ally for those down times to help reignite your spirit, to help you see, like this poor guy with his cups, that there can be a happy outcome still, as you're going through it. So thank you, Mimosa, for coming through for us today. Next up, I want to consult our crystal and mineral allies. Oh, wow. Okay. Ah. All right. Well, Moonstone is like, I'm coming out. I want the world to know. Okay. Well, both of these just popped out really fast, so I almost didn't even get to ask the question. It's almost like, should I send these back? I didn't even ask the question, but let's just trust. So we have the Moonstone coming out. I have a Moonstone ring that I always wear. And the message of the Moonstone is nurturing, divine feminine, and intuitive. So I think that's beautiful because that's very much like this High Priestess energy. Drawing power from the divine feminine, Moonstone connects you to goddess energy, activating your intuition. Moonstone can boost clairvoyant gifts and metaphysical powers, asking that you trust in the unknown beyond what you can see in this realm. The reflective nature of this crystal is much like the moon phases themselves, a cycle of change from new beginning to full release. Moonstone balances masculine energy with the feminine touch, teaching the art of receptivity and serendipity. It is especially potent during the waxing moon. So yeah, once again, that's speaking to the attribute of darkness, that it is that energy of the divine feminine, the intuitive, the inner knowing, the going within, as opposed to the divine masculine energy, which is bright and taking action and going out in the world. So we all have both of those energies within us, and it's our alchemical job to sort of balance those two energies within us, to know when it's time to take action and know when it's time to go within. And it's very important, like this is saying, in the new beginnings, that you start from within, because if you're not really thinking through, not even thinking through, but it's like, it's the intuitive, it's beyond, thought and logic is more of the masculine energy. The darkness is more of the intuition. It's listening to that inner guidance, that inner voice, that inner stillness before you take action, before you put something out into the world. So it's a very important part of our process. Awesome message. Thank you, Moonstone. And our next crystal that just wanted to pop right out is I don't know this one, so I may be pronouncing it wrong. I apologize. A charoite. And its keywords are bonding, acceptance, and service. Their presence in the present. Charoite shows you the gifts of living in the moment, enhancing gratitude and appreciation for the day-to-day. This is true acceptance, letting go of expectations for what your life should be and embracing what is right now by just being. Starlight brings deep healing to your physical and emotional selves, down to your very cells, by reconfiguring your old daily programming into a new way of processing your daily life. After all, it is about perspective. Starlight helps you face your fears, see reality over projections, and live your truth. So I need one of these crystals. It's a good one. But yeah, I love that. It's about, accepting the present moment. So when you are in the darkness, accepting that. Mary Magdalene, who's one of my favorite ascended masters, we're going to pull a card from her later. A lot of her teaching is about that. It's about taking wherever you are in your process, in your journey, and bringing love to that part of you. It's not about, I'm going to love you when you're Four of Wands and you're celebrating and you're happy. It's also like, how do we bring that deep love to this person who's grieving, who feels lost, who feels like their happiness has been ripped away from them. Like, how do we equally love this version of ourselves? Because we all go through it, and the people around us go through it too. And so how do we have this depth of compassion for ourselves and others as we move through our personal and collective darkness? And then I think it's interesting too that this crystal talks about helping you face your fears and seeing reality over projections, because with the moon coming up here, the moon card in tarot is very much about the things that go bump in the night. It's, opposite of the sun. When the sun's out, you can see everything. Everything's very clear. But by moonlight, shadows can become monsters and bushes can become boogeymen. And there's this internal darkness that we all have, this internal, unexplored terrain where we haven't seen the truth of why we feel the way we feel about things, like our traumas and our inner child wounding. And like, we can take this very deep programming and just project it out into the world if we haven't faced it. And it can be scary to face that, right? Like, no, it's like the last thing we want to do is face that internal darkness. It's not fun. And so, it can help to have a guide, whether it's a crystal or a therapist or a good friend, that can help you to see, where are you running off old programming, and how can you process a new way of informing your, perspective, because our perspective is really the thing that creates our whole reality. All right. This is kind of a challenging reading because I feel like I'm just skimming the surface. But if obviously we could talk about the topic of darkness till the end of time, and it still wouldn't be enough time. So we'll have to keep moving. All right. So let's get some advice from our animal friends. Dear animal friends, can you please give us some advice on dealing with the element of darkness in our life? Interesting. We have the illusion, and we have this shark in the brain. It's so funny because it's kind of what we were just talking about, Sometimes the shark is in the ocean and sometimes it's in our brain. Interesting. All right. We also have this kind of like harpoon going towards the shark. Let's see what it says. Ooh, it's a phantom shark. Interesting, yeah, because it's all in the mind. In this card, we see a harpoon searching the sea for a dangerous shark that appears only in your mind's eye. Phantom Shark has a direct message for you today. Your current fear, worry, or insecurity is all an illusion. You tricked yourself into hunting for a thing that doesn't even exist. By putting so much attention and effort into combating or avoiding what you are afraid of, you're simultaneously engaging and fueling it. Most fears quite literally exist only in our minds. When you feel small, insecure, or controlled by fear, this is not your true self. This is your programmed self, ruled by the limbic system, ego, past traumas, and the false marketing that always, excuse me. Okay, this is your programmed self, ruled by the limbic system, and I just wanted to come back to that anyway. Um, the limbic system is an aspect of our nervous system, and a lot of times we get into this like survival mind. I call it like my reptile mind, but it's like this part of you that's really just um, very focused on how to survive in the physical world, you know. Like right now I'm looking for a job, so for me like it comes up a lot, like this fear, you know, like what if I don't get a job, what if I can't pay my rent, you know. And it's my higher mind knows it's going to work out. My higher mind knows, you know, I'll be fine. But that limbic brain is something to be aware of. It's something to realize that we have this part of our mind that's very preoccupied with survival, and it can really take over sometimes, and it's not something to shame ourselves for. But when you see that you're in that frame of mind, to acknowledge it as something that is distinct from your higher self, your higher knowing, you know, that helps to say, okay, this is a, you know, we do need a part of ourselves that is focused on survival because we're in a material realm. It does play an important role, but it can become overly activated and it can create a lot of fear that's unnecessary. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. So when you feel small, insecure, or controlled by fear, this is not your true self. This is your programmed self, ruled by the limbic system, ego, past traumas, and the false marketing that always shames us into feeling not good enough. This illusion will tell you that you are not worthy, make you feel scared, keep you with someone who treats you poorly and makes you feel the need to compete with and be better than others. The challenge lies in how powerfully real this illusion appears. It colors every aspect of reality, like a cloud of thick gray smoke. While you cannot always avoid being caught in the smoke, you can recognize when you are in it. This is the most important part of seeing clearly. You must first understand that you are in the illusion before you can escape it. The more you become cognitively aware of the smoke, the less power it has over you. Right now, Shark's medicine for you is to understand that whatever currently brings you fear is not actually the truth. You're safe and everything's going to work itself out. Do not make big decisions when the gray smoke is visiting. Soon you will see clearly. All right, thank you, Shark, for that very important reminder. A lot of the times, you know, the thing going bump in the dark is our own thoughts, you know. And, you know, obviously, yes, sometimes there is real danger in this world. I'm not gonna like honeycode it and say we're never in you know, a situation that we need to be aware of to get out of. But like this card was speaking on, there's a great power in just learning to observe and understand when the thing you're up against is your own mind, you know, so you're not wasting all this energy that could be going towards your happy ending, right? All right. And I feel it's very appropriate in this reading to touch on the moon again. We already talked a little bit about the moon tarot. High Priestess is very connected to the moon, in my opinion. I think she has the moon on her. It kind of looks like she has the moon on her. I want to say her hat, but I feel like there's a better word for it. Her crown. She has like a moon crown going on there. Um, I'll have to re-Google her imagery, but I think that's a moon crown. So yeah, so here we are in the dark, and you know, the dark can be very beautiful. The moon's one of my favorite things about Earth. It's one of my favorite things ever, I think. That you can see it in the daytime sometimes, but it's the most illuminated in the night, you know. Also, you know, that last card I think was talking about cycles, and the moon teaches us that we're always going in cycles. Sometimes the moon is full and bright, sometimes it's a new moon, it's completely dark, sometimes it's kind of half and half, and so we're in our lives, we're always cycling between periods and aspects of darkness and periods and aspects of light. And just like the moon is always there and complete and whole, our soul, our spirit, our true self is always complete and whole. But as physical beings, we go through these ups and downs. We go through shadow and light. We go through, good times, bad times, happiness, sadness, getting what we want, not getting what we want. And it's this dynamic thing that helps us grow, just like plants need rain and water, and we need daytime and sleep. There's this ebb and flow to all of it that is facilitating our growth, facilitating our evolution at all times. All right. Dear Moon, what would you say to us about working with this element of darkness in the world and within ourselves? What's the moon's advice today for us when it comes to the darkness? Right. Be bold and make the first move. Interesting. So this is a cardinal moon, and it's showing the moon when it's waxing, when it's getting bigger, the little crescent moon. All right. When all else fails, look it up. Okay. Be bold and make the first move, the cardinal moon. Now is the time to be bold, bossy even. Take matters into your own hands. Cardinal signs are powerful and self-starting. They're determined and great at organizing. Cardinal signs are the signs that begin a season, just so you know. As opposed to a fixed sign, which is like the middle of the season, and immutable, or I'm saying season, but astrological timing. The beginning, the middle, the end. The cardinal is the beginning. So it's that it's more of that masculine energy of going forward, making a move, starting something. Drawing this card strongly suggests that you're going to need to be all those things to get your ideal resolution or position in the situation you're asking about. This card may challenge you on how strongly you really want something. If you're worrying about a situation, it is a suggestion to be less passive, instead take an assertive stance as you steer events where you want them to go. Speak up for what you want. If you're serious about sorting things out, you may need to take the lead in some way to step up as a leader. The affirmation is, I am taking charge of my destiny. Additional meanings for this card: be bold and follow your heart and your emotions. Avoid recklessness or moving too fast. Come into your power. The time for action is now. And ask Ganesha, the Hindu elephant god, for help. I love Ganesha. He's amazing at removing obstacles. So interesting. So like a lot of this is about, this reading so far has been about the feminine, the darkness, the stillness, the listening. And I do think that is an incredibly important aspect of the darkness. But when you're talking about like a, sort of a mind shark, our little friend here that we just hung out with, when we are dealing with illusions, when we are dealing with mental fear, mental darkness, we have this harpoon being aimed at that. And I think that these two cards are telling a story together, So this is a different kind of darkness than the inner intuitive darkness. This is the darkness that is illusionary darkness. And when we're dealing with that illusionary darkness, we need to use our harpoon. We need to first be able to differentiate, is this a healing, helpful darkness, or is this an illusionary, darkness is going to get us, off our path or make us feel stuck. And when we learn to differentiate the two, then we can start to make decisive action. We might say, I probably need to see a therapist, or I'm going to feel better about looking for a job if I update my resume, or I'm having a hard time in this relationship. We need to sit down and have the tough conversation. Sometimes getting out of the darkness requires us to get up, walk across the room, and turn on the light and look at what we're really dealing with, and then saying, how do we change this situation? So it's another aspect of darkness, and it's an important one. All right. Thank you, Moon, and thank you, Shark. So next I want to go to alchemy and ask for an alchemical process. All of life is alchemy. I love studying alchemy. I'm kind of a bad student. I mean, I could be a good student of alchemy and I would still never scratch the surface in a single lifetime. It's an incredibly vast topic. But really, all of this is the study of alchemy when it comes down to it. Using plants is alchemy, using crystals is alchemy, going to therapy is alchemy, crying is alchemy. It's all alchemy. It's like alchemy is that transformative process. It's like when I was talking about the story of the chickpea earlier, and how it has to be thrown in the pot and burned and smashed and seasoned, and it's like, oh my god, like I'm being tortured here. It's like, no, you're being turned actually into an amazing meal for the king. Like that's alchemy. That's what we're all going through in our lives. I just realized how dark it's getting. Speaking of darkness, I just looked up at the camera. I'm like, it's getting dark. Time of year. All right, let's stop chattering here. So let's get a alchemical process to work with darkness. Let's say, dear Hermes Trismegistus, he is the ascended master of alchemy. Will you please send us a message, an alchemical process for working with the dark? Dear Hermes Trismegistus, will you please send us an alchemical process for working with the dark? All right, we have the reddening. Okay, just for a little context, in alchemy, there's the four colors. So there's the darkening, and I'm just going to read that, even though it didn't come up, just to give us a frame of reference for the reddening. So the darkening is the depth, the readiness, the churning. In alchemy, darkness is in alchemy, darkness is an achievement. It indicates the material has been through significant occurrence, like our little chickpea friend. Sometimes called an initiatory experience that has brought it into a state of readiness for the work. The darkening prepares us. We've moved beyond the small talk and the chit-chat of the upper world and descend into the psychic layers of the soul. We admit who we are fully and bravely, and thus open ourselves to the process of transformation. When this card appears, it's not necessarily to delve into what brought you here, the initiation, likely by fire, that has caused the embers to char. Rather, it's time to heal, and darkness is the remedy. Closing your eyes is a voluntary expression of darkening. By practicing it daily, we drop into the depths and surrender. As the alchemist's adjust, transform. As the alchemist's eyes adjust, transformation begins. Like, as my eyes adjust, I read the page. One day I'll get reading glasses, perhaps. Okay, so the darkening is the first step. We go through the dark. And then we start to lighten up. We start to purify. And then we go through the yellowing. And that's when we start to have some awareness, have some comprehension of the experiences that we've gone through. There's a bit, it's not just a void anymore. We're starting to kind of understand a little bit. And then we have the final step, which is the reddening. Life force, kundalini, and blood. The reddening indicates a full expression of the work. Everything is alive. The heart pumps, the cells celebrate, and the blood sings its way through the body. What was dormant has been awakened. What was once considered base is now noble. Aches and pains are integrated, shadows are acknowledged and interwoven. When the reddening card appears, it signifies health, power, and a climaxing of the work, a coalescing of what has been learned. The laboratory is no longer separate from the alchemist or from the work, but the three are now one. What occurs in the body is reflected in the world and vice versa. Through the process of the reddening, we move out of the head and into the physical body. More specifically, we reach the heart. It is there the alchemist finds the sacred ingredients of power and kindness. So yeah, I just wanted to give that context because I feel like the message coming through is, in order to get to this transcended state, it starts with the darkness, right? It all starts with the darkness. The seed starts in the darkness, the child starts in the darkness, our transcended state starts in the darkness. The chickpea, starts in the darkness. We all start in the darkness. And that's, a important ingredient, it's an unavoidable part of the whole. So when we're going through our darkness, we can see that this is necessary for us to become our fullest selves, is to go through this darkness, like our little guy here and his heartbreak. Maybe this wrong person had to leave him, or maybe he had to face some really unsettling things about himself, or maybe he had to lose hope for a while. Whatever his darkness is, it's part of the process that brings him to the happiness and the fulfillment. It's not separate from it, because if he had gotten married to this person and he still was carrying this wound of feeling like he was unworthy or unforgivable or not enough, it would sabotage his happiness. He wouldn't feel happy. He would look around and say, I have this external thing that I always wanted, but I'm not happy, like that. Darkness is the thing we have to face in ourselves, like that thing that has to be churned up and illuminated so that we actually can feel like happy within our happy ending. And darkness is the beginning ingredient of us becoming these like fully actualized beings. Right, thank you. Hermes Trismegistus, our wonderful guide of alchemy. I totally recommend anybody study alchemy. I've studied it just such a small amount, like a tiny amount, and it's such a amazing thing to kind of understand. That's all I can say about it. From what little I kind of understand about it, it just really enriches your whole experience of what it is to be human, I think. All right, I'm gonna do a few more here. I'm going to go now to the Path of Light Oracle, because that is the other hand of darkness, right? It's the light. These teachings come from the Bhagavad Gita, it's the Hindu Bible, essentially. I'm going to ask for the spirit beings on this path of light to give us a lesson about darkness today. Thank you. Oh, beautiful. I love this already, this candle. I'm just going to hold this because it is getting dark in here. I'm not using my light. Kind of a darker card, but it has this candle and it says redemption. Beautiful message. Redemption. No matter what you've done or not done, no matter the severity of your mistakes, you can always find your way back to the good, back to your true self and God. All that is required is the desire to change your ways and the willingness to devote yourself to the path of wisdom and love. Even if you are the greatest of all sinners, you can transcend sin by correct knowledge and wisdom. The ancient Greek and Hebrew word for the word sin means to miss the target, to miss the center or the bullseye. The target we are aiming at, whether we realize it or not, is our own inner ideal. It is who we really are and who we could be. Our ideal calls us to internally reminding us of our potential and letting us know when we fail to live up to this inner vision. While on one hand, our ideal inspires us to be all we can be, on the other hand, it judges and is constantly measuring our performance in pursuit of our aim. This inner judge is called the conscience in Christianity. It is the internal feedback mechanism of the soul. It is the big self advising the small self and lets us know when we stray from the appropriate course of action so we can course correct. The word sin was also used to refer to losing one's way on a given path, to veer off course. We stray off course when we fail to live according to our inner vision and values. When we fail to do all the things we know we should that work for us, and conversely to do the things that we know we shouldn't, that hold us back. We allow the winds of life to blow us off course. When this occurs, we can easily and quickly find ourselves on the downward path that leads to bondage and suffering instead of the upward path that leads to freedom and peace. So here we're dealing with another aspect of darkness, is when we venture away from our own souls, when we venture away from our true ideal, our true enlightened self, and we go off into the dark, and we all do it. So, if sin is missing the mark, then hell is the psychological experience of suffering that is a consequence. Hell is not some place in the afterlife where we will be judged, but rather a state of mind we experience when we fail to live up to our ideal, when we fail to live how we know we should. This verse advises us that no matter what you have done or not done, no matter how bad you have been, no matter what you have done wrong, you're never cast aside. You are and always will remain a part of the one cosmic consciousness, an aspect of God. Consequently, if you are sincere and ready to change, you can and will be embraced with the open arms by the self and be assisted in traversing the ocean of ignorance. Graciously, the Gita offers all of us a path to redemption. It is through the correct knowledge and development of wisdom that sin is overcome. Sorry, they kind of change up the language here, so I'm just trying to keep it concise. So basically, the cause of sin is a lack of knowledge and incorrect no, the lack of knowledge and incorrect knowledge. In this context, lacking knowledge is being unaware of the spiritual nature of life, unaware of our connection to something greater than ourselves. Incorrect knowledge is the things that we think that we know are mistaken. The primary example is the idea of separation. The world operates under the assumption that we are all separate, unrelated bits of material substance, when in truth we are one and connected. What leads to all of our suffering can be corrected by introducing yogic teachings. If we're ready and devoted, if we commit ourselves to our new path, to living in alignment with our ideal and our dharma, we can find our way back to our true self. We can find redemption, and we can leave our separate self behind. So yeah, that is a huge aspect of the darkness on this planet, is this illusion that we're separate, and the actions that we take that are fed by that illusion, when we see the other as something in the way, something less than, something less worthy, something less loved by God. That's the root of our pain and suffering here on earth for the most part. And so this beautiful, powerful message that's coming through from the Bhagavad Gita is that we can always be redeemed. We either don't understand that we're all one, or we understand, but we still act against that knowing. So maybe what we need is to understand this principle more deeply through spiritual study, because whenever we come into a deeper connection with ourselves, then we understand this principle because it's a universal truth. And then sometimes, the world with its, getting back to that limbic mind, and people are trying to survive, and people can be like us versus them, so sometimes that we're all connected, but you act against that. And both of those paths will lead us to feeling like we're in the dark, and that we're creating darkness here as well. But there's always redemption, and the redemption is to either understand the nature of reality or to act in accordance to that understanding. And we can always come back. The like I said before, the hell we experience is our psychological state from living outside of these principles, and it's something that can always be righted. That we can always come back into a state of oneness and bliss consciousness. All right. Thank you, Bhagavad Gita. Very important message. I always believe that too. I always believe in redemption, because we all sort of fall off at times. It's a part of the path. Most adventures have a segment of the story where the people become lost, or they make a wrong decision, and it's in correcting that. It's in going deeper into our understanding and correcting ourselves that we gain that sort of clarity and moral compass and strength, so it's not something to get stuck on or beat ourselves up about. Like, just remember, we can always come back to the light of knowledge, the light of love, the light of truth. All right, just about ready to wrap up here. So happy to have you guys with me. Hope you're enjoying the reading today. I'm enjoying it. I've been going through a hard time, so I never know what's going to come through. So I'm doing the reading, but I'm also like needing to hear the messages too, because it's a whole thing to go into this other kind of state of consciousness and open myself up to some spiritual guidance, because in my day-to-day I very much get stuck in my like survival brain too. Like I'm certainly not, preaching that I do all this stuff. I just take all it is I take the time to tune in to spirit, and then try to take that advice, and that's something we all have the power to do. So it's hard down here. So this deck is my Mary Magdalene deck. I mentioned her earlier. I love her very much as an ascended master. And just to touch on what I was saying earlier about her teachings really are about bringing love to wherever you are. If you've gone off your path, if you're heartbroken, if you're destitute, if you're whatever difficulties or darkness you're going through, if you're scared, if you have inner child wounding, to like know that you're also divine. We're going through this human experience, but we're also divine. And how can we bring that divine love, that unconditional love, to every part of our human experience? And if we can do it for ourselves, can we start to do it for another as well? So how do we start weaving light back into this earth plane? Because it has become a pretty dark, scary place. And we each have within us that consciousness that, they call it the Christed consciousness, that we each are a light in this world. We each have that ability to bring light to ourselves and to others. And so yeah, I love her teachings because they've helped me a lot. So dear Mary Magdalene, what would you say today? What would you say to us today on the topic of darkness, which imagine, in her story of having her beloved executed in front of her. That's pretty dark. Like, that's a whole nother level of dark I hope I would never experience. And yet she remained this figure of love. How do you do that, Mary? How do we face this extreme darkness in the world around us sometimes with love? So we have the soul. I am free. I am not bound to anything. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm so froggy today. All right. She says, deep breath. Even in the midst of the worst that can unfold for us, the soul whispers, I am free. It seems so strange that something so infinitely powerful could be accessible, visceral even, right here in the body. It seems so strange that something so otherworldly could be reached with an act that seems so entirely commonplace and mundane. Deep breath. With the intention, the consciousness of the single deep breath can detach from the ego and all its 7 powers. With one intentional deep breath, we can return to the heart, to the vast expanse of what's possible, to the limitless realms of the soul. In Mary's Gospel, the soul explains, I have been bound, but I have not bound anything. Mary 9:14. The soul has been bound by the 7 powers of the ego, but the soul does not bind anything or anyone in return. The soul, the essence of who we are, will be judged throughout our lifetimes by both our own ego and the egoic powers of others, even our loved ones. The soul will be judged and bound, but the soul doesn't judge or bind others in retaliation. The soul is free and knows it. The soul says about the 7 egoic powers, they did not recognize me, but I have recognized that the universe is to be dissolved, both the things of the earth and those of the heavens. Mary 9:15. The ego can't see or recognize the soul, but the soul can see through all the dualities, all of those opposites that rule the ego. Like day and night, light and dark, heaven and earth, the soul embraces as a unified whole. The soul is not bound to the egoic desires of being here on earth might bring, nor is it bound to the egoic desires of what heaven might contain. The soul is content to simply be here now. The soul releases both heaven and earth to exist nowhere else but in the present moment. Deep breath, even in the midst of the worst that can unfold for us. The soul whispers, I am free. Oh. So that's a big, bright, shiny light. I love that our last card had a candle, and this does as well. And I feel like these messages are also correlating to us, that the redemption card spoke about the darkness that we can transpire to, but this card is speaking of the darkness of the world. And in both cards we have this candle. In both cards we have this ability to become free, within our soul, within our consciousness. All right, thank you, Mary Magdalene. All right. Just going to finish up here with the Sacred Destiny Oracle. Thank you, Spirit, for coming through today and speaking to us on this very vast topic of darkness. We could be here for a billion years and still not cover half of it, but thank you for coming through with these really beautiful messages. And ask you just for one more final message to close out today. All right, so I'm back. Getting to practice my editing skills today because my battery died. So let's see how this goes. I do always like to end the reading with a card from this Sacred Destiny Oracle. So, dear Spirit, thank you for all the beautiful messages you've given us today to help us to contemplate the role of darkness in our life. And you have a final closing message for us today, please, about the darkness. All right. Interestingly enough, we got 2, and I think Gateway came out in the last reading I did. So we have happiness with dolphins and the sunshine, which seems like quite the departure from darkness here. Shimmering sunshine. Our sun is at the center of our solar system. Our planet and our lives revolve around it, its cycles of light and dark, our inner and outer biological rhythms, as well as the rhythms of every animate and inert part of our lives, are ruled by this celestial force. In the far past, the sun has been thought of as God. Traditionally, it has been associated with happiness, joy, hope, enlightenment, illumination, truth, cheer, warmth, and goodwill. Additionally, sunlight is an expansive force. When something is heating up by the light of the sun, it enlarges. Without the energy of the sun, things contract. The sun carries the deepest energies of expansion in life, so to receive this card is to know that you are expanding. The sacred landscape wants you to know, click your heels and shout for joy. The signs are within you. Let your light shine. Abounding good luck awaits you. A gateway is opening for even more joy and happiness. Your life is expanding. Opportunities are emerging. This is the time to go forward with glee. Love deeply and fully. Embrace life with open arms. Goodness is flowing to you. The only thing to be aware of is to monitor your expansion in a metered way. Too much, too fast can be overwhelming. So interesting. We've just gone a full asking about darkness, and Spirit is like, I think with the dolphins are such a symbol of joy, and the sun is such a symbol of, like light and expansion. And it's like, I feel like this is more just an energetic transmission that's coming through in this moment of joy, of light, this sort of beacon, this lantern to get us through the darkness, to remembering our inherent joy, and that Spirit really does want us to wants us to be happy at the end of all this, at the end of all this darkness. And next we have Gateway, which came out in a reading before. I think the last one I did, maybe. Enchanted Valley. There are places on the planet where the veil between the physical realms and the mystical dimensions is especially thin. These places are called portals, vortexes, or spiritual gateways. In mythology, they are revered as places where things beyond ordinary reality can occur. Mystics, visionaries, and shamans can traverse this realm and the next through these places. In Celtic traditions, the wee folk, the fairies and elves, easily moved through these portals and have access to these magical places. The Enchanted Valley is the place where these portals often appear. The sacred landscape wants you to know that magic is afoot, wondrous events are unfolding, profound revelations and inner illuminations are close at hand. It is now much easier to manifest your dreams. This is an excellent time to take action on your visions for your future. A small amount of action now will generate bigger results. Gateways to spirit are opening, and there are places where the veil is especially thin. Fairies and elves are supporting you. Wonders are blossoming in your life. Watch for them. Open your heart to the hallowed, holy, magical energy. The more you become aware of the small marvels in your life, the more they will grow in magnitude. So, wow, yeah. That's a whole 360 from the darkness, but I feel like Spirit just kind of coming through with a big hug and saying, it's going to be okay. You know, whatever we're going through, ultimately, it's going to be okay. All right. Thank you for joining me. I know this is a long reading, and I just send so much love, light, and blessings to your path. All right. Until next time, goodbye.